Most people spend their lives gliding on the safe tracks laid out for them. They go to school, get a job, play their roles, follow the rules, and never once pause to question the script they were handed. It feels safe, comfortable, predictable, but then something shifts. For some rare souls, the world starts to look different. They notice the cracks others ignore, the contradictions in human behavior, the hidden motives behind polite smiles and perfect systems. Suddenly, life is no longer what it seemed. They begin to serially see. Carl Jung, the Swiss psychiatrist, who devoted his life to exploring the hidden depths of a human mind, knew the weight of this awakening. He once wrote, "To be enlightened is not to imagine figures of light, but to make the darkness conscious." And that's the danger. When you open your eyes to truths others refuse to see, you step into territory few dare to explore. This isn't just philosophy. It's history. Prophets, whistleblowers, visionaries. They saw beyond the veil, and many paid the price. Because once you see, you can't unsee. The illusion shatters. You can never go back to who you were. But let me ask you, have you ever felt this shift yourself? That unsettling moment when something just doesn't add up anymore? If you have, you're not alone. And if you're curious where this path leads, make sure you subscribe, because we're about to go much deeper. 1. The isolation of awareness. The first danger of seeing what others don't is loneliness. You begin to notice your conversations feel different. Friends and family don't understand your perspective. What used to feel rich now feels shallow. Jung believed that this very disconnection is often the beginning of true growth. But isolation can hurt. It can make you feel like a stranger in your own life. Have you felt that before? If you have, stay with me, because it means you might already be walking the same path Jung described. And if you want more insights like this, don't forget to subscribe so you never miss when we explore the next step. 2. Resistance from the collective. Society resists change. When you point out inconvenient truths, you'll meet pushback, ridicule, rejection, sometimes even hostility. Jung noted that groups punish those who threaten their stability. That's why visionaries are often labeled rebels or even dangerous. Think about it. Have you ever shared an honest thought and instantly felt the room turn cold? That's a collective defending itself. And here's the thing. The deeper you go, the more resistance you'll face, which is exactly why we need spaces like this channel. Subscribe and stay, because here questioning is not punished, it's welcomed. 3. The burden of responsibility. Seeing comes with responsibility. Once you awaken, you can't just close your eyes again. Do you speak up? Do you act? Or do you quietly live your truth? Jung understood that individuation isn't just about insight. It's about the courage to embody it. But that's heavy, isn't it? Sometimes knowing too much feels like carrying a secret you can't share. If you've ever felt that weight, this channel is where we explore how to carry it without breaking. So if you haven't already, subscribe now, because the next chapters will go even deeper into this struggle. 4. The risk of psychological fragmentation. Jung warned that diving into the unconscious too quickly can destabilize the mind. Seeing too much too soon, without preparation, can shatter you. The shadow is not a metaphor. It's real, powerful, and dangerous if left unintegrated. This is why some seekers burn out, collapse, or spiral into despair. Vision without grounding is like staring at the sun without blinking. It blinds you. That's why Jung emphasized balance, anchors, rituals. Without them, awakening can feel more like madness than liberation. And here's where it gets fascinating. Because the very thing that threatens to destroy you can also be the thing that transforms you. Do you want to know how? Then hit subscribe, because that's exactly what we'll uncover together. 5. The temptation of arrogance. The final danger is subtle but deadly. Arrogance. When you see what others don't, it's easy to feel superior, to believe you hold the ultimate truth. Jung called this one of the biggest traps on the path of individuation. True insight should make us humble, not hardened. It should expand our compassion, not shrink it. So ask yourself, has your awakening made you kinder or colder? If you're honest, that question alone could shift your entire journey. And if you want to keep asking the hard questions with me, make sure you subscribe, because this exploration doesn't end here. The truth is, awakening isn't glamorous. It's messy, painful, isolating, and at times terrifying. But it's also the most authentic path you can walk. Because once you see, you can't go back. Carl Jung believed this process, what he called individuation, was not just a choice, but a destiny, a call to become who you truly are, not who the world told you to be. It comes with a cost, yes, but also with a reward no illusion can offer: freedom. So if you've ever felt that quiet shift inside you, that unsettling awareness that life is more than the surface story, you're in the right place. Stay with me. Subscribe, because this is only the beginning. If you're enjoying this and want to dive deeper into thought-provoking ideas like this, make sure you subscribe right now. Hit the like button, leave a comment with your thoughts, and don't forget to turn on the notification bell. Your support helps keep this conversation alive. When a person begins to see what others don't, the first thing they often meet isn't wisdom. It's loneliness. And not the kind that comes from sitting alone in an empty room. No, this is a deeper, quieter loneliness. It creeps in when you share something you've realized, only to be met with blank stares, polite nods, or awkward silence. It's the emptiness that follows when people aren't ready to hear the truth you uncovered. Carl Jung understood this perfectly. He knew that real awareness often isolates before it connects, because to awaken is to step away from the familiar, to wander into uncharted territory, and to do it alone. It starts small. Maybe you question a belief you've carried your whole life. Maybe you notice the patterns behind people's words, the masks they wear, the quiet desperation behind their smiles. You try to put it into words, but others laugh it off, change the subject, or tell you you're overthinking. That's when it hits you. Seeing clearly doesn't always bring you closer to people. Sometimes it creates distance. And that distance can feel like a canyon, because most people find comfort in illusions. There's safety in pretending things are exactly as they appear. But once you've peeled back the layers, once you've seen behind the curtain, you can't unsee it. Suddenly, conversations that once felt lively now sound scripted. Spaces that once felt warm now feel staged. You start feeling like a stranger in places you used to belong. Jung didn't see this as a mistake, he saw it as a stage. He wrote that this kind of exile is a necessary step in becoming who you truly are. It's in the silence, in the uncomfortable space between you and the world, that transformation begins. But let's be honest, it's not easy. The human heart craves belonging. We all want to be seen, understood, embraced. Awakening often feels like being pushed out of the tribe before you're ready. You're no longer living inside the collective story, but you don't yet know your own. That limbo is confusing, painful, and at times unbearable. And this is why so many people turn back. They close their eyes again. They bury their questions. They trade truth for belonging, because the weight of awareness without connection can feel crushing. But here's where the story changes. If you hold on, if you endure the silence, something shifts. You begin to realize that solitude isn't abandonment, that being misunderstood doesn't mean you're wrong. Slowly, you start to form your own voice. You find new language. You attract new people. And the loneliness starts to transform into something far stronger: alignment. That's when you stop living as a reflection of the crowd and start living as yourself. And that is the beginning of real freedom. If this resonates with you, stay with me, because this is only one step of the journey Jung described. And if you haven't yet, subscribe to the channel now. There's so much more to explore together. If this message is already stirring something inside you, pause for a moment. Hit subscribe, like this video, and turn on the notification bell. Because the path we're walking together doesn't end here. There's a strange kind of resistance that shows up when you begin to speak truths that rattle the way things are. It doesn't always look like an argument or an angry debate. Sometimes it's a quiet dismissal, a subtle eye roll, a sudden shift in the energy of the room. Other times it's sharper, mockery, rejection, even hostility. And that's the danger. The moment you begin to see what others don't, and more importantly, say it out loud, you step into direct opposition with the collective. Because society, for all its complexity, thrives on agreement. It survives through shared beliefs, unspoken rules, and a collective story that keeps life predictable. Challenge that story, even gently, and you're suddenly seen as a threat. Jung understood this deeply. He believed that As the individual becomes conscious, they inevitably clash with the unconscious will of the group. And that conflict is never just philosophical, it's deeply personal. Think about it. When you point out manipulation in the media, corruption in leadership, or unhealthy patterns in your own family, you expect others to see it too. But instead, you might be labeled paranoid, negative, even dangerous. Not because your words are wrong, but because they demand others face something they've been avoiding. And most people would rather protect their comfort than face their shadow. Backhand index pointing right, have you felt this? That subtle pushback when you've spoken the truth? If so, let me know in the comments and make sure you're subscribed, because what we're exploring next will take you even deeper. This resistance from the collective happens everywhere, not just in politics or philosophy, but around dinner tables and offices and friendships. You begin editing yourself, holding back, carefully measuring how much truth you can reveal without disturbing the peace. And over time, that can feel like emotional exile, being physically present but spiritually distant. Jung warned that groups often project their shadow onto the individual who dares to break away. The more you embody what they suppress, the more they turn you into the enemy. You become the mirror they don't want to face. That is a lonely and dangerous role, but also a necessary one, because every shift in collective consciousness begins with someone who was willing to stand apart. There's no easy way through this, but when you hold your ground, when you refuse to betray your awareness just to belong, that resistance slowly turns into strength. And then comes the next stage, the weight of responsibility, because awareness doesn't leave you empty-handed. Once you've seen, you can't unsee. And that means you now carry something, a duty, a calling, whether you ask for it or not. Most people imagine awakening as a kind of freedom, and it is, but it also marks the end of innocence. You can't walk into a room anymore and just see what's on the surface. You feel the hidden dynamics, the unspoken tensions, the power games, the wounds people hide. You sense illusion where others see stability. And now that you see it, you can't pretend not to. That's responsibility, not to fix the world, not to preach, but to live aligned with your vision, even when it costs you something. Jung called this the process of individuation, becoming who you truly are, distinct from the collective mask. And he warned it demands not just self-awareness, but moral courage. To live truthfully in a world addicted to illusion is no small act. It's revolutionary. And here's the part you talk about: the grief, the guilt, the pain, seeing patterns you can't fix for the people you love, carrying truths others reject, knowing more than you can safely share. It's exhausting, which is why many retreat back into silence, back into comfort, back into pretending. But for those who stay the course, something shifts again. Out of the weight comes a strange kind of power, a clarity that doesn't make you arrogant, but grounded. You begin to trust yourself, not because you have all the answers, but because you refuse to betray what you've seen. Backhand index pointing right, if you've ever felt that quiet tension inside you, that call to live differently, you're not alone. Subscribe now, stay with me, because in the next chapter, we'll step into the even deeper danger Jung warned about. What happens when the shadow overwhelms those unprepared to face it? Because awakening isn't just about seeing. It's about surviving what you've seen. If this reflection resonates with you, if you feel pulled toward deeper conversations about true self-awareness and the courage it takes to truly see, then pause for a moment and subscribe to the channel. Tap the button, turn on notifications, and stay close. Because the path we're walking isn't one most people dare to explore, but you don't have to walk it alone. There's a quiet line that gets crossed when you start uncovering truths most people avoid. At first, it feels empowering, like you're shedding layers of illusion and waking up to life as it really is. That first wave of awareness can feel electric, intoxicating even. But Carl Jung warned of something most people never talk about. If that awareness comes too fast, too deep, or without grounding, it doesn't free you, it fragments you. We like to imagine truth as pure liberation. And yes, it can be. But truth is also raw, complex, sometimes brutal. If you peel back too many layers at once, the world you thought you knew can collapse overnight. Systems you trusted feel corrupt. Beliefs you clung to feel false. Even your own identity, who you thought you were, suddenly feels hollow. And when meaning collapses too quickly, the mind scrambles for something solid. If it doesn't find it, it spirals. Jung saw this often in his work. Patients who stumbled into the unconscious without guidance became lost in it. Some sank into depression, others into paranoia. Some began seeing patterns and forces everywhere, connections that didn't exist. Others felt swallowed by the very shadows they were trying to confront. This is the dark side of awakening, when you see behind the curtain but haven't yet learned how to carry what you've seen. And here's the subtle danger. The shadow doesn't just reveal itself. It seduces. It tempts you to run from it, or worse, to identify with it. Either way, you risk losing balance. Many who walk this path experience a stage like this. Thoughts tangled, emotions volatile, a constant questioning of everything, even yourself. It feels like the ground is shifting under your feet every day. And in that state, it's easy to think you're losing your mind. But Jung would say, you're not losing it. You're meeting it. Parts of your psyche that have been buried are finally surfacing. The unconscious is becoming conscious. And that is never small, never simple. But here's the key. You're not meant to face it unanchored. Jung believed the psyche strives for balance. It wants wholeness. But if you push too hard, too recklessly, the system breaks down. That's why grounding is essential. Practices that keep you rooted, self-reflection, journaling, art, therapy, even simple routines become lifelines. They give shape to chaos until your inner world can reorganize itself. Awakening isn't a game. It isn't an aesthetic. It's not about appearing deep or different. It's a real psychological journey, one that can consume you if you treat it lightly. To walk it fully, you need humility, patience, and support. Because to integrate what you see, you have to survive it first. And if this part of the journey speaks to you, stay with me. Subscribe now, because in the next step, we'll explore something just as dangerous, the temptation of arrogance. The moment when seeing differently tricks you into believing you are above others. And that, Jung warned, can be just as destructive as fragmentation. There's a subtle danger that creeps in once you begin to see what others don't. Not the loud rejection from the outside world, not even the inner confusion, but something quieter and more seductive. The temptation to believe you're above those who don't see. It begins innocently. You feel different. Your awareness sharpens, your perspective deepens, and you notice things others miss. Slowly, you start to feel separated, not just an experience, but an identity. If you're not careful, that separation hardens into superiority. Carl Jung warned of this very trap. The inflation of the ego under the illusion of spiritual or intellectual insight. When you gain clarity that others haven't yet reached, it's easy to mistake that clarity for final truth. You begin to see yourself as someone who knows, while others are still asleep. It feels good, righteous even. But the moment you define yourself by what you see and others don't, you fall into the exact shadow you thought you had escaped. Arrogance. It wears a different mask, but it's the same old pattern. Ego grasping for identity, power, and control. Jung called this the inflation of consciousness, when the ego mistakes awakening for superiority, forgetting that true growth always bends toward humility, not pride. The danger of this arrogance is that it isolates you, not because others push you away, but because you quietly pull yourself away from them. Conversations start to feel beneath you. People feel like distractions. You stop listening, stop being curious, and start preaching. You begin to value being right more than being connected. The very awareness that was meant to open doors becomes a wall between you and the world. Jung believed that the more conscious you become, the more responsibility you carry, not to rise above others, but to serve as a bridge between what is seen and unseen. And that requires humility, because no matter how much you think you know, you are still limited. No one has the full picture. Even the most awakened minds are still human, still carrying wounds, blind spots, and illusions. The real danger is thinking you're beyond all that. That isn't awareness. It's delusion disguised as wisdom. True vision doesn't separate, it connects. It doesn't just see more clearly, it feels more deeply. It brings empathy, not judgment. Openness, not superiority. It reminds you that you, too, were once unaware. That there are still things you don't see. That awakening is not a finish line, but a lifelong unfolding. So if you see what others don't, let it humble you. Let it keep you curious. Let it soften your heart, not harden your ego. Because the real danger isn't in what you've seen. It's in forgetting that seeing doesn't make you better. It simply makes you responsible for how you carry it. When a person begins to see what others don't, one of the first things they experience is loneliness. Not just being physically alone, but feeling emotionally and mentally distant from the people around them. You start noticing what others ignore, the hidden motives behind actions, the unspoken rules everyone follows without question. And when you try to share these insights, people dismiss you, change the subject, or look at you with discomfort. Suddenly, you feel like a stranger in your own circle. Jung explained that this kind of isolation is natural, because true self-awareness separates us from the collective story we once belonged to. Along with this isolation comes resistance. Society survives on shared beliefs and comfortable illusions. So when you question or challenge those beliefs, you disturb the fragile stability everyone relies on. Instead of welcoming new perspectives, most people react with ridicule, silence, or rejection. Jung understood that those who awaken often find themselves in conflict with the unconscious will of the group, which instinctively protects itself from change. And this resistance can hurt. It tempts many to hide their awareness just to keep peace, just to keep belonging. But with awareness comes responsibility. Once you see beyond illusions, you can't unsee them. You carry the burden of what you know. And that means living authentically according to your insights, even if it costs you relationships, comfort, or security. Jung spoke of individuation, the journey of becoming your true self. And that path demands moral courage, to stand in truth, even when it isolates you further. Yet there's another danger if awareness isn't handled carefully. When someone dives too quickly into unconscious truths without grounding, it can trigger chaos within. Jung warned that confronting the shadow, the dark hidden parts of ourselves, without preparation can cause anxiety, confusion, or even mental fragmentation. The mind struggles to hold what it has uncovered, and without support, it can spiral into despair or paranoia. Awakening isn't a race. It requires patience, humility, and sometimes guidance. So the psyche has time to integrate what it discovers. And finally, there's the quietest danger of all: arrogance. When you begin to see what others don't, it's tempting to believe you're above them. Jung cautioned against this inflation of consciousness, where the ego mistakes awakening for superiority. The truth is, insight should humble you, not elevate you. It should deepen compassion, not create distance. The moment you look down on others for not understanding what you do, you've lost the essence of awareness. Real vision connects, it doesn't separate. Awakening is not a finish line. It's a lifelong unfolding of growth, mistakes, and learning. If you found this reflection thought-provoking and want to explore more ideas like these, consider subscribing to the channel. Hit the like button, share your thoughts in the comments, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss an update. Your support helps us keep diving deeper together.